Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has said the prison capacity crisis is much worse than he feared.
Yes, this is as his government prepares to release tens of thousands of inmates early in a bid to prevent jails becoming full.
Well, he's expected to authorise emergency measures this week, which could see criminals automatically freed after serving just 40% of their sentence.
Well, we're joined now by retired prison governor Vanessa Frake. Vanessa, surely this is a recipe for disaster?
Good afternoon to you both. Well, yes, it is, but the bigger disaster will be if we lose a prison or we have riots in the street and we have nowhere to put violent criminals. That will be the bigger disaster. You know, this is the grim reality. I've been banging on about how full our prisons are for the last 12 months. But, you know, as usual, we're reactive rather than proactive. It's a complete lack of foresight by the last government and this government. You know, to say this whole sort of blame culture that Labour are coming out with is starting to irritate me, to be quite honest. You know, it's worse than we thought. Well, they were told how bad it was. They chose not to listen. So, you know, we are where we are. What I do hope is that those that are released early are monitored, are fit for release, i.e. their resettlement plans are in place. They've got home, possibly work, support systems on the outside. And that they adhere to the conditions of their licence. Yes, they'll be freed from prison, but they still will be on licence, and that those licences will have can have any manner of conditions that must be met, i.e. stay away from alcohol, stay away from drugs, curfews, maybe even not to contact victims. But yes, I mean, you know, it is a worrying time. But don't forget, Labour let out about 81,000 prisoners between 2007 and 2010 when we were in exactly the same position that we are now.
It is remarkable, Vanessa, but looking at the statistics is perhaps even more shocking. That of those who serve less than a year as their sentence, more than half go on to re-offend, and that's be charged with re-offence. Perhaps it's even more than half who do so undetected. This is potentially going to be a dangerous time for people in the United Kingdom. Well,
yes, it is. I mean, you know, we have got the statistics. We've got the information that says, you know, 12 months and under do not work as a deterrent to commit crime. All you do is you take away everything that somebody has, their home, their work, their support systems. You put them in prison for 6 months because that's how much they'll do out of a 12-month sentence. But you give them 6 months with hardened criminals. So they go out with nothing and then they commit crime. And that is the long and the short of it. 12-month sentence in prison do not work.
And Vanessa, the Labour government are also talking about encouraging more businesses and the like to hire offenders, those who've come out of prison, they've served their time, and give them jobs. Surely on the face of it, that's a positive move.
Well, yes, it is. I mean, and there are many, many companies. Greggs is just the most recent one, I think, that has signed up to that. You've got Timpson's, who has worked with prisons for a long, long time, hiring ex-offenders. Obviously, they're risk assessed, they're specific types of prisoners. But yes, they're giving somebody a chance. And surely having a job, having a home, having a family life is the key to not committing further crime.
And yet so often we do see such a small proportion of people, sort of serial criminals who go in and out of prison for their whole lives, committing more and more crime. The journalist Ed West recently compiled a huge list, and it's really quite horrific to read. People who are arrested and imprisoned for rape, they're let out and then they murder. I mean, this happens again and again and again. Do we need to have a pretty clear delineation here between violent criminals and non-violent criminals? Because I suppose it would be a much greater risk to society if we are to let out violent criminals early.
Well, absolutely, it would. You know, I mean, let's look at what you've just said there, Tom. You know, if you've got a lot of prisoners who are convicted of violent offences, and you don't work with them, you don't help them to address their offending behaviour, and you let them out. Chances are, yes, they are going to offend again, and it will possibly get worse. And as a society, we need to decide who we're going to lock up, how long we're going to lock them up, and why we're going to lock them up. And I think that's something that, you know, it's going to be radical. It's going to be eye-opening. It's going to be, a lot of people are going to have a lot to say about it. But, you know, James Timson is right when he says, you know, there's probably a third of prisoners who are locked up who actually shouldn't be, that their sentences should be better off done in the community and serve the community that they've offended against. And I'm talking about non-violent offenders.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Vanessa Frake. You're a retired prison governor. Really great to get your experience on this one. Thank you. It is... the thing is, the problem is, if you try differentiating between different criminals, I mean, that sounds sensible, but also then we kind of forget that low-level crime. What is low-level crime?